So here's a question for you. What if going green didn't have to cost us jobs? What if it could actually create them? Well, in this explainer, we're going to dig into a fascinating report that explores that exact idea, modeling two very different futures for our food.
And look, this isn't just some pie-in-the-sky theory. A new French study decided to tackle this question head-on. And believe me, their findings have huge implications for pretty much everyone everywhere. All right, so let's set the scene here. We're talking about France, which, like a lot of countries, has this really ambitious goal to slash its carbon emissions. And a massive piece of that puzzle? You guessed it, the entire agricultural sector. The target itself is crystal clear. Cut emissions from farming in half by 2050. But, the big question isn't really what the target is, it's how you get there, right? Which path do you take? And what does that actually mean for the real people, the farmers, the workers, whose livelihoods are on the line?
And that's exactly where this groundbreaking report comes in, from two research institutes, IDRI and BASIC. They essentially said, okay, let's imagine we're at a crossroads, and they modeled two completely different roadmaps to get to that very same 2050 destination.
And here's what makes their work so incredibly important. They didn't just sit around counting carbon molecules. No way. They looked at the real-world stuff. What happens to jobs? What about farmer income? What's the impact on the whole food processing industry? And maybe most important for all of us, what happens to the quality of the food that actually ends up on our plates?
They gave these two paths some pretty distinct names, Dual France and Recompositions. Think of Dual France as this laser-focused path all about hitting that climate number using technology and efficiency. Recompositions, on the other hand, is much broader. It's trying to solve for climate, plus jobs, health, and nature, all at once. Two paths leading to two wildly different futures.
Okay, so let's walk down that first path, the Dual France scenario. The mindset here is super simple. Hit the climate target. That's it. That's the one and only goal, and everything else is secondary.
So the logic here is really all about efficiency. The idea is to just let farms get bigger and more specialized, let technology do the heavy lifting to cut emissions. And the key thing is, in this future, the government doesn't really interfere with the market or, try to change what people are buying at the grocery store.
So, does it work? Well, on paper, yeah, it absolutely hits the climate goal. But, and this is a huge but, the report revealed that all this so-called efficiency comes at a pretty steep social cost.
First up, jobs on the farm. The model shows they just plummet. We're talking a 9% drop compared to the trend we're already on. And, it kind of makes sense, right? Bigger, more automated farms, they just don't need as many people to run them.
And that's just the start. It's like a domino effect. That pain ripples right through the whole supply chain. The food processing industry also sees a massive 12% drop in jobs because it's following that exact same playbook of just getting bigger and more standardized.
So here's the bottom line for path number one. By focusing only on the climate target, this Dual France scenario creates these huge, painful trade-offs. Sure, you hit your carbon number, but you're bleeding jobs and you're making almost no progress on things like healthier food or a healthier planet.
Okay, so that sounds pretty bleak. What's the alternative? Let's take a look at path number two, the one they call recompositions. This one takes a completely different, much bigger picture approach to the whole problem. This scenario isn't just about tweaking a few things here and there. Nope. It's about transforming the entire system. So instead of just focusing on the supply side, it actively shapes what we eat and how it's made. It encourages more diverse farms and creates what the report calls an Italian-style food industry. Think more decentralized with more small and medium-sized businesses.
And wouldn't you know it, the results are, well, they're night and day. As the report says, when you try to solve for multiple problems at the same time, you can end up creating multiple benefits. It's not a trade-off, it's a win-win.
So get this, instead of seeing farm jobs disappear, this path actually creates more of them. We're talking a 10% increase compared to the current trend. And this is the best part, farmer incomes stay solid the whole time.
And the good news just keeps on coming. The food industry also gets a huge boost, an 8% growth in jobs, and that's driven by a shift toward higher quality, less standardized food, which just happens to require more skilled people to produce it.
And this table just brilliantly illustrates the contrast. Just look at it. Remember, both paths hit the exact same climate target, but their outcomes for jobs, for the quality of our food, for nature, they are literally polar opposites. It's incredible.
So you've got to be asking yourself, what's the secret sauce here? How is this better future even possible?
Well, the report is super clear on this point. This doesn't just happen. It requires deliberate, smart, and frankly, courageous political choices.
And it really boils down to pulling three big policy levers. First, you have to actively shape demand. Use a whole range of tools to make the healthiest, most sustainable food the easiest choice for everybody. Second, you align the rules across Europe so that all farmers are competing on a level playing field. And third, use smart trade policy to protect your high standards from being undercut by cheaper imports.
So let's bring this all home, because what this really boils down to is a fundamental choice that we all have to face. What this French case study ultimately shows is that the debate over our food system isn't just some technical problem of counting carbon. Not at all. It's deeply political. It's about what kind of future we value and what we're willing to build.
It proves that a future that is good for the climate doesn't have to come at the expense of jobs. In fact, it can be the very thing that creates better jobs, healthier people, and helps our natural world to thrive.
So the key takeaway from all this is simple. The choice isn't if we transition, but how we do it. This report proves a better future is totally possible for the climate, for jobs, and for our health. But it's not going to happen by accident. It's a choice. And the question it leaves us with is, which path will we have the courage to build?